Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's AM docket. Today is Thursday, January 21st, 2021. The board will be hearing regular items today, and I'll quickly go over our PowerPoint presentation regarding these online hearings. The board runs these hearings on the WebEx platform. There's a link shown on this slide that you may click to join the hearing along with an access code and password. If you do not have a smartphone, tablet, laptop, or other device, you may use the call-in number and access code to listen to our hearing. All materials that have been submitted to the board and are being considered by the board can be found on our hearing schedules page on our website. The board has a 48-hour evidence rule, which means that all the evidence should have been submitted for this hearing by Tuesday, January 19th, to our Assistant Executive Secretary, Stacey Russell. Amendments to application made by the applicants or their representatives cannot be accepted after the date provided and will be postponed. After this preliminary hearing, the Executive Secretary will call the cases. Once the case is called, I will impanel the applicants and/or their representatives and any other witnesses to ask that their video and audio feeds are turned on so they may be sworn in and provide testimony. At the end of this case, the board will ask if there are any individuals who would like to provide further testimony. If any member of the public wishes to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand function so I can make you a panelist. At that time, please turn on your video and audio feeds to be sworn in by our court reporter. Lastly, the board is not authorized to discuss non-case related items.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Can we proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Yes. Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City virtual public hearings. Today's date, January 21st, 2021. Mr. Chairman, preliminary matters on the docket, if I may.
Please.
Case number 2, 411 South Central Avenue, a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, hotel, motel. This matter has been postponed and will be rescheduled for another date and time. 4100-02 East Lombard Street, Class BD7, appearing before the board for hardship extension. This matter has been postponed. Call the case, very first case on the docket. Pen and Quill at Chesapeake, 1701-05 North Charles Street, Class B, beer, wine, and liquor license. This is request for a hardship extension under Article 12-2202. Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Is there a counsel in this case?
No. I have pulled in the current licensee as a panelist.
Okay. Let's swear. Is that Ms. Karzai?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Let's swear, please.
Sure. Raise my hand.
Is Ms. Karzai just appearing by phone?
I'm at my computer. Oh, start video. Oops, sorry. And okay. Hello.
Oh, I see her. Okay. Hello, Ms. Karzai. My name is Tom. I'm the court reporter. Can you raise your right hand to be sworn in?
Yep.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you spell your full name for the record?
Sure. It's Naomi Karzai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, Ms. Karzai. This is Chairman Matriciani. So we have a letter from Patricia Karzai dated November 1, 2020, requesting a 180-day hardship extension. Do you want to tell us the basis for it?
Yeah. So we, with all of the mayor's orders and all that, we had been going back and forth with in-person dining and delivery and all of that stuff. Eventually on July 3rd was our last day of business. And we had two more dinners booked for August. However, because of COVID restrictions, those were eventually canceled. And then, so we closed our business after that point. And we had the new owners came in a few months after that, but we still own the liquor license. So eventually they agreed to a management agreement with us. And what we're doing now is hoping that we can extend our liquor license for 180 days while we work out the paperwork with the new owners.
Okay.
So rather the transfer.
Are you expecting that it will open sometime in that period?
Yes. They, I believe, plan to be open within a few weeks for delivery and carry out. And in the meantime, well, that's so, and Friday, I suppose we can open again for in-person dining. So they'll be eventually, pending if it changes again, moving towards at 25% capacity in-person dining.
Okay. Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Karzai?
I have no questions.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Page, any public comment on this matter?
If there are any members of the public who wish to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand function at this time. Mr. Chair, I do not see any members of the public who wish to give testimony for this case.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Karzai, on the basis of the letter that was forwarded to us in November and your testimony this morning, I'd vote to approve the 180-day hardship extension. Commissioner?
Upon a review of the evidence and the testimony that was presented before the board this morning, I also vote to approve the application for the hardship extension.
Good morning. Based upon the letter and the testimony from Ms. Karzai, I too would approve the hardship extension for 180 days.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's
Thank
for the
you.
record.
Okay. Good luck to you, Ms. Karzai.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Kern?
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Case number 3 on the docket. Fulton Liquor Store, 1801 West Lexington Street. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Mr. Chair.
Is there counsel in this case?
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. J.U. representing the applicants.
Good morning. Is anyone going to be testifying, Mr. Yu?
I have 3 applicants, but I'll proffer if I may.
Okay. Do you want to just identify yourself again for the record then?
This is a request for transfer of Fulton Liquors. This is a grocery carryout located at 1801 West Lexington Street. The current owner has been owning this business for more than 30 years, to our understanding. This business will be purchased by Ji Young Kim, who will be the 100% owner, president, treasurer, and the secretary, and her father, Chulman Kim, who will be 0% interest holder and assistant treasurer, and Ms. Tiffany Griffin, who will be the assistant secretary, 0% interest holder, and the resident agent licensee. Ms. Tiffany Griffin is a 48 years Baltimore City resident, and she has clean record. She is employed with Baltimore City Police Department for 15 years. She's very familiar with the rules and regulations. She's a person of moral character. And also Ms. Kim used to work for her father at the Sandwich King, which was it's a sandwich shop that was in the Leicester Market. They used to have a beer wine license, so she's familiar with the rules and regulations as Mr. Kim is. Mr. Kim is experienced in selling beer and wine, and he's certified, and also Ms. Kim is certified, and Ms. Griffin used to be a bartending, so she is very, very familiar with the rules and regulations. And the hours of operation will be 8 to 10, Monday through Saturday. And If there's any questions by the commissioners, I'll be happy to answer.
Will there be any other people serving alcohol at this location?
At this time, Mr. Kim's wife will be helping them out, so she will be certified as well.
Okay. Do the commissioners have any questions?
I have no question. I have no questions.
I have one question. Mr. Yu, just, I noticed that Mr. Kim with Guilford Liquors had a violation on a sale to minor. It looked like it was 20 years ago or so. Any other issues?
No, he doesn't have exact recollection as to when it was, but he approximates that it was about 20 years ago. And an employee had sold to a minor. Obviously, he's responsible. So even though he could not recollect exact time, he disclosed that on the application.
Okay. Yep, I appreciate that, and I'm sure he appreciates the violation he once had and is trying to avoid that ever happening again. Thank you, Mr. Yu. I have no further questions.
Mr. Page or Ms. Kearns, do we have public comment on this one?
If there are any members of the public who wish to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand function at this time. Mr. Chair, I do not see any members of the public who wish to give testimony.
Thank you. So on the basis then of the materials contained in the application, as well as the proffer from Mr. Yu, I would vote to approve the transfer of this Class A license. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, based upon the testimony you've given and the review of the evidence, I also would vote to approve the transfer of the ownership.
Based upon the applications and the proffers from Mr. Yu, I join my colleagues in approving the transfer of ownership.
No exhibits for the record.
Mr. Page or Ms. Kearns, don't we usually advise counsel that they're going to receive something in the mail?
Yes, office staff will be providing documentation to the attorney or the applicant that they will be, what the next steps are and what documents.
10 South Calvert Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. A request for hardship extension under Article 12-2202. Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Kadensky's case?
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky. I'm on my phone because my computer crashed, but you can see me. I know I'm probably not the most pleasant experience, but.
We enjoy seeing you, Mr. Kadensky, but we don't see you now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we will survive. So, Mr. Kadensky, you wrote us on November 24th requesting a hardship extension.
Yes, I did. This would be the owner of the license, the secured creditor, Mr. Alan Rabineau, who happens to be an attorney, had taken the license back, and on the abundance of caution, I've requested a hardship extension because we weren't quite sure with the COVID of the situation. However, just coincidentally, this next case behind this one are the applicants for that license. But we felt since we had it in, we would ask for the hardship extension in case the transfer would not be approved, they have a viable asset there.
And this is for 100 days or 90 days?
180 days hardship extension.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Ms. Kearns, any public comment on this? Hello? Ms. Kearns?
If there are any members of the public who wish to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand function at this time. I have Ms. Stanley, but she is applicant for the next case. Ms. Stanley, did you want to testify now?
The next case.
Okay, so that's no one else?
Mr. Chair, I don't see any other members of the public who wish to provide testimony.
All right, thank you. On the basis then of Mr. Kadensky's letter of November 24 and his proffer this morning, I vote to approve the 180-day hardship extension. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, upon the review of the evidence and the testimony presented this morning by Mr. Kaninsky, I also vote to for the hardship extension of 180 days.
Based upon Mr. Kadinsky's letter and his proffer this morning, I too would approve the 180-day hardship extension.
No exhibits for the record.
Okay, well, let's proceed then to the next case and take this.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Case number 6, Dream at Legacy Bar and Bistro, 10 South Calvert Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to transfer ownership from secured creditor with continuation of live entertainment. Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Kadensky, you want to identify yourself again for the record, please?
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky representing the applicants. Two of the applicants are here, and I understand the young lady is also on the line, Ms. Staley.
Yes. Are they going to be testifying, Mr. Kadensky?
The two gentlemen would testify. I'd proffer, but I'd first of all proffer to the board that this is the transfer of that license that we had just recently chatted about. Originally, there were 3 applicants, and this Mr. Hunt, Ms. Stanley, and Mr. Macy, that Ms. Stanley may not be a final participant in this, but we wanted to go through with the hearing. Each one of the applicants, Mr. Hunt and Mr. Macy, have extensive experience in the business, having worked at that location and also at Sonar. They would have, and they've met with various people in the area, the Hampton Inn people, the people at Spring Hill. They have meetings with the Downtown Partnership, and they have provisions for security at that location. We'll have a full menu, and also will be alcohol certified. They were alcohol certified. They're just going to renew their certification. The normal hours of operation would be sometime around noon till the end of the day.
Okay, so, and does Ms. Stanley on the phone? She won't testify?
I don't know.
If any
That
members of
sounds
the
like
to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand function at this time. Mr. Chair, I do not see any members of the public who wish to give testimony.
Okay, I thought you put this on.
I did. I'm not sure. The raise your hand icon didn't work, but I did want to testify because this is news to me.
All right, well, we need to swear in this. So would the reporter please swear in?
Ms. Stanley, are you able to turn on your video?
Yes, I am.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you give will be the truth and the only truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Can you spell your name for the record?
BROOKESTANLEY.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Stanley, what did you want to tell us?
So from hearing what Mr. Kudzinski just said, that's actually news to me, as far as me not being a partner moving forward. We've been, at this point, we have not reached an agreement for our operations agreement as well as a partnership. We've been trying to, but have had a lot of trouble. So I did, my attorney did reach out to Mr. Macy as well as Hunt to try to come to an agreement before moving forward, and we still have not reached one. As to the restaurant, because it's a restaurant and lounge, as to that, the restaurant was something that I was actually in complete control of once we agreed to be separate. So as of right now, I am not in support of moving forward just because, again, we do not have any type of agreement, and that needs to be made prior to moving forward.
Okay, so Mr. Kadensky, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So this is an application made by 3 persons, and one of them wants to withdraw it. So where are we?
Well, that's where they were. The other 2 want to go forward. The third one, I have talked to her attorney, and eventually I think there's going to be a situation where there'll only be the 2 of them that go forward, unless that is reached, I can understand that they'll be approved subject to all three having an agreement or only two of the three having an agreement.
Mr. Blendy, can we do that?
Mr. Chairman, Nicholas Blendy, Deputy Executive Secretary.
Yeah.
I would need to research that. My initial instinct would be you have an agreement that's before you that one of the applicants wants to withdraw or not move forward today. So I don't know that that would be a proper decision to move forward in the objection.
Mr. Cadet, suppose
Let
we
me-
push back to next week's calendar and you guys work it out.
Well, either that or you could hold it sub curia. I mean, I'll leave it up to the board. I don't, you know.
Yeah, it seems to me, Mr. Chairman, it seems to me, if I could, it seems to me like this would be a material change to the application, and would require us not to, it suggests to me that it's not something that is ready for us to decide right now, because it is a fairly material amendment.
If you want to move
Chairman Greenfield, this is Nicholas Blendy again. I would agree that it seems rather major and not like a change of name, that someone had legally changed their name. This is a person who does not wish to move forward. So I would agree with your instincts there.
So if you want to move it to next week, then we'll see if we can work it out. That would be agreeable.
Tentatively, let's schedule that. You let us know if you've got it worked out, okay?
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And send the lady back.
Okay, let's
We move to the next case, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Number 7 on the docket, Echo Bar and Grill, 3527-29 East Baltimore Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an amended application to transfer ownership. Mr. Chair.
Yes, and is there counsel in this case?
Yeah, for the record, Melvin J. Kadensky. This is the original applicant. In the case, Camila was approved by the board. The city resident that was the prior owner of the place, Patricia Locklear, decided that she didn't want to be involved. So Miss Elaine Young agreed to be the city resident for purposes of fulfilling the city residency requirements. And I understand Miss Young is available on the phone.
And when did we approve it?
Probably about 2 months ago.
So it's just a matter of substituting a city resident?
That's correct.
And we have her as living in Baltimore City, so shouldn't be a problem. All right, do the commissioners have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the original application was approved by the board on 9/10/2020.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Page. Commissioners have any questions about the substitution? Commissioners?
No questions.
Mr. Guy?
No questions. No questions.
Okay, we have public comment on this, Ms. Kern?
If there are any members of the public who would like to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand function at this time. Mr. Chair, I do not see any members of the public who wish to provide testimony.
Right. So on the basis then of the fact that the board has previously approved Mr. Camillo for the transfer of this BD7 back in September, and they are now amending the application to include Ms. Young as city resident, I would vote to approve.
Commissioner Guy, based upon the information that was given, I also would vote to approve the amended application to transfer of ownership.
Based upon the application and the proffers from Mr. Kadensky, I too would approve the amended application to transfer ownership.
Exhibits.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
Mr. Kadensky, you will receive a preliminary approval letter outlining the next steps that must be done before we physically transfer the license.
Thank you.
All right, next case, Mr. Page.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Sammy's Wines, 786 Washington Boulevard. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to transfer ownership, requesting delivery of alcoholic beverages. Mr. Chairman?
Did you skip a case?
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky representing the applicant, who's with me.
Okay, excuse me one second. What happened to the 249 West Chase Street case?
That's it right now.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. If we could go back
Oh, I'm sorry.
to case number 8 on the docket, 249 West Chase Street. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to transfer ownership, requesting delivery of alcoholic beverages. Mr. Chair?
Okay, is this case as well?
Again, for the record, yeah, Melvin J. Kadensky with Miss Takita Alley, who's here with me.
Okay.
This is a transfer of an existing Class A license. I guess to everybody's comfort, Miss Alley has gotten into an agreement with the Mount Vernon Belvedere. It was an MOU. Unfortunately, it was just submitted yesterday because we finalized it. I think it may be in your packet, it may not. And also a letter of approval for the transfer of this license. It's a small little liquor store. She's going to operate it only with 2 or 3 individuals. She'll take the alcohol awareness course. She will make sure all her employees are alcohol certified. She will abide by the terms and conditions of the memorandum of understanding, and also join the Mount Vernon Belvedere Association.
I know that we received the letter of support from the Improvement Association. I don't know whether we have a copy of the memorandum of understanding yet, but she's willing to have its terms be a part of her license.
That's correct. And I think Miss Russell said she was going to try to get it. They were all together, so it may be in the same packet, but she did sign it, and so did Miss Michelle Richter from Mount Vernon Belvedere signed it.
Yes, it's in the file. It should be with the letter.
Okay, thank you. I might have missed it. I apologize. So do the other commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
We have public comment?
Are there any members of the public who like to provide testimony? Please use the raise your hand function at this time. Mr. Chair, I do not see any members of the public who wish to give testimony for this case.
So on the basis that materials in the application, as well as the letter of support and the memorandum of understanding with the Mount Vernon Belvedere Improvement Association, and based on the proffer from Mr. Kadensky, I'd vote to approve the transfer of this Class A license.
Commissioner Guy, upon the review of the evidence and the testimony presented, also because of the letter of support and the MOU, I also vote to approve the transfer of ownership with requesting the delivery of alcoholic beverages.
So based upon the application and the proffers from Mr. Kadensky, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with delivery of alcoholic beverages, subject to the MOU to the extent it's enforceable by law.
Yes, I concur.
Let's call exhibits for the record. Exhibit number 1, letter of support dated January 20th, 2021 from Mount Vernon Belvedere Association. And exhibit number 2, MOU between the applicants and Mount Vernon Belvedere Improvement Association. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kadensky, you will receive electronically or via U.S. mail a preliminary approval letter, which will outline the next steps before we physically transfer the license to your clients. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, recalling case number 9, Sammy's Wines, 786 Washington Boulevard. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to transfer ownership, requesting delivery of alcoholic beverages. Mr. Chair.
And do we have counsel in this case?
Yeah, Melvin J. Kadensky for the applicant. I think he just stepped out to put some money in his meter. Could you defer me to the next case, please?
Okay. All right. Ms. Page, want to call the next one?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. The next case, number 10 on the docket, McAfee's Pub, 2706 Dillon Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Mr. Chair?
Is this Mr. Fogelman's case?
Yes, sir.
Is he on?
I think so. Can you hear
Mr.
me, Mr.
Yes.
Chair?
Identify yourself for the record, please.
Hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, great. Can you see my client?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of applicant Dennis Kistner.
Good morning. Do you want us to swear him?
Yes, thank you. We'll be very brief.
Okay.
Can you raise your right hand, sir? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If you can speak up.
Sorry, I do.
Okay, thank you. And can you state and spell your full name for the record?
Yes, it's Dennis Aubrey Kistner Jr. DENNISAUBREY Kistner Jr.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Fogelman?
Thank you very much. I had him sworn, but this one will be pretty quick. He's been with Mahaffey's at 2706 Dillon since for over 13 years managing. Bought the bar in 2017 and has operated it since 2018 as co-owner. He is Alice Kistner Vasilia, who they are now divorced, and Mr. Kistner will remain the sole owner of Mahaffey's. We have a case right after this one where Miss Kistner Vasilia will be applying for transfer of ownership of another bar. This is a well-run establishment. It's an asset to Canton. The neighbors love the place. Nothing will change under this change of ownership, only the stock.
Okay. And I believe you sent us their menu as an exhibit.
I believe so. Thank you. So I'd have to ask that that be incorporated by reference and admitted. Thank you.
It will be received. Do the commissioners have any questions?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Ms. Kearns, we have public comment.
If there are any members of the public who wish to provide testimony, please raise your hand function at this time. Mr.
I didn't hear you, but I assume we have none.
Do not have any.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, Mr. Fogelman, on the basis of materials that were contained in the application as well as proper, and in fact, that it doesn't sound like anything is really changing with respect to the license, I would vote to approve the transfer.
Commissioner Guy, upon the review of the evidence and the testimony presented, I also would vote to approve the transfer of ownership.
And I join my colleagues after reviewing the application, the proffers, and the testimony, would approve the transfer of ownership.
Thank you.
No exhibits for the record.
Mr. Fogelman, via U.S. mail or electronically, you will receive a preliminary approval letter, which will outline the next steps before we can physically transfer the license to your clients.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
For the record, Mr. Youssef is back here.
Okay. Do you want to go back and do that one, Mr. Page?
Sure, that's case number 9, a recall of case number 9 on the docket, Sammy's Wines, 786 Washington Boulevard. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership, requesting delivery of alcoholic beverages. Mr. Chair.
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky representing the applicant. The applicant has been a prior licensee at 132 South Carey Street for a number of years. Has been off the license for some time. This particular location is just a beer and wine location. His sister has owned it, and then she has to go ahead and sell it, and he wants to go ahead and take over. He is familiar with the rules and regulations. He will have alcohol awareness. At the prior location, there were some violations, to be honest, with minors, but it was towards the end when he was getting out of that business and coming off the license. He's full aware that the board takes a very serious serving minors. However, this location is not a beer, wine, and liquor. It's just a beer and wine location and has, a very little volume. But he now knows he's forewarned to make sure he abides by the rules and regulations of the liquor board.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, please.
The applicant for 6786 Washington Boulevard is still a licensee at 132 South Carey Street. Before we physically transfer out of this license, the pending license at 786 Washington Boulevard, Mr. Tesfazon must be removed from the license at 132 South Carey Street.
Mike, I understand. I concur.
And is it all right, Mr. Page, if we do this tentatively, conditionally?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
I have none.
No questions.
Public comment?
If there are any members of the public who wish to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand function at this time. Mr. Chair, I do have someone who would like to provide testimony. I'm pulling Ms. Valeri on as a panelist.
Okay.
Ms. Valeri, can you turn on your camera, please?
If I can find it, start video. Good morning.
Good morning. Ms. Valeri, we have to swear you in, okay?
Yes,
Can you raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you spell your full name for the record?
Barbara, B-A-R-B-A-R-A, Valeri, V-A-L-E-R-I.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Valeri, what would you like to tell us about this one?
This is a general comment on people who are, or applicants who are requesting a significant new privilege, which is the delivery of alcoholic beverages. And I would like the request that the board, before they support the transfer, to ensure that the applicant understands the rules and regulations guiding deliveries, alcoholic deliveries, which are fairly substantial and which have not been adhered to during the time of the pandemic.
Okay, is there something in particular about our rules that you're concerned with?
Just ID check and signing for the product. So there's no guarantee that the person or the persons receiving the packages are 21 and older, and there's no documentation associated with the sale.
Okay. So, Mr. Cadenzi, is your client aware of these rules and regulations?
Yeah, actually, the board has a form that they use on delivery, that they have the person making the delivery gets filled out to identify the person who is getting the alcohol, make sure they're 21 and they get the requisite information, and he would agree to do that.
And then that becomes documented?
They keep it just in case there's a violation, then they would show as to who they delivered it. I think Mr. Page is familiar with the form that the board has.
Okay. Does that satisfy your concern, Ms. Valeri?
Well, in part it does. The other part is enforcement, because these documents in theory are maintained by the establishment. So it means that your inspectors now have an additional job of ensuring compliance and will need to visit these outlets to, in fact, look at the documentation, know what to ask for, and know what they're reviewing when they're looking at it.
Well, I don't know that we've discussed that among ourselves, but I think we can put that on our agenda and have a discussion about that to make sure that we're complying with our own rules and regulations. So I thank you.
And
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is Nicholas Blendy.
Yeah.
Rule 311 of the board's rules and regulations, which covers delivery, It does, at the end, very specifically indicate that the privilege of delivering alcoholic beverages may be withdrawn immediately by the board if a restriction is not followed. So the board does retain the power to immediately withdraw any such privilege it grants, should it choose to do so.
Yeah, I understand. I think we need to talk about is how we enforce it, as Mr. Perry indicated. So
yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
If we could put that on our executive session for the next meeting next week, that'd be good.
Will do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
If there's no other public comment, I would, on the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers and testimony, I would conditionally vote to approve conditionally the transfer of this license to Mr. Tesfazian based on the fulfillment of his obligation to be removed from the 132 Cary Street license. Commissioner?
Commissioner Guy, based upon a review and the evidence and testimony presented before the board this morning, I would also vote to approve provisionally the transfer of ownership requesting delivery of alcoholic beverages when Mr. Tesfazian is removed off the license of 132 South Curry Street.
Based upon the applications, the proffers, the testimony, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with delivery of alcoholic beverages conditioned upon the applicant being removed from 132 South Cary Street.
Exhibits for the record.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Kudensky, via U.S. mail or electronically, you will receive the preliminary approval letter, which will outline the next steps before we physically transfer the license to your client. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Case number 11, Cardinal Tavern, 901 South Clinton Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, amended application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service. Mr. Chair?
Mr. Fogelman, is this your case as well?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of the applicant.
Okay. You want to tell us about it?
100%. We're joined on the phone by Alice Vasilia. That is, Vasilia is her maiden name. She was recently divorced. She spent 15 years working at Mahaffey's Pub as a manager and then as co-owner. She's decided to, having spent the vast majority of her adult life in the hospitality industry, she decided that she wanted to stay in the business. And so she found an opportunity on South Clinton Street with the Cardinal Tavern. She has extensive and has been alcohol management certified for years. She has real life on the ground experience. As for the Cardinal Tavern, it's also an establishment near my residence in Canton. It's always been relatively well managed. She's got a chef in there. I may have sent you, as part of exhibits, some of her menu from her website. And there's not going to be a lot of changes to that establishment, and it'll be in good hands.
And servers will all be certified as well?
Absolutely. And just like the case before with Mr. Page, so Miss Vasilia is still on the license at 2706 Dillon, but both of them will be completing these transfers so that that these transfers will be able to go through.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Ms. Kurtz, do we have anyone else who wishes to testify?
If there are any members of the public who wish to provide testimony, please use the raise.
Keep losing you.
I'm sorry. I do not see any members of the public who wish to give testimony.
All right, thank you. On the basis then, Mr. Fogelman, of the materials contained in the amended application, as well as your proffer, again, I would vote to approve this transfer of this BD7 license conditioned on Ms. Vasilia's removal from the prior license.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, upon review of the evidence and testimony presented before the board this morning, I would also vote to approve provisionally until Ms. Kistner is removed from the other license. But I would vote to approve the amended application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service.
Thank you.
Based upon the amended application, the proffers from Mr. Fogelman, I too would approve the amended application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service, conditioned upon Ms. Kistner being removed from the license at Mahaffey's.
Thank you.
Exhibit for the record. Licensee Exhibit 1, menu.
Thank you.
Mr. Fogelman,
Yes, sir.
via U.S. mail or either electronically, you will receive notice from the board preliminary approval letter outlining the next steps that must be taken before we physically transfer the license. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Thank you all.
Next case, Mr. Page.
Case number 12 on the docket, BLK Swan 1100 Fleet Street, Unit 1302. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service. Mr. Chair.
Is this Mr. Fogelman's case as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
All right. Want to identify yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. Your Honor, Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of the applicants in this matter.
And you want to tell us what this is about?
Sure. If you don't mind, I'd like to just swear one witness.
Sure. Who is that?
Mr. Christopher Simon, who's here in the hearing virtually.
Please.
Yes, sir. I'm not seeing Mr. Simon.
Oh, they're together. The two applicants, it could be Jada McCrae's phone.
I'm here, Chris Simon.
Okay, I hear.
That's him.
Okay, okay, thank you. Mr. Simon, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And can you spell your name for the record?
Chris Simon, ChrisSimon.
Thank you.
And Miss McCrae is not here with me, but she is also here via video as well.
Okay. Mr. Fogelman?
Yes, I'll be brief, and my client has a brief statement to make. Mr. Simon and Miss McCrae are planning to take over the very beautiful spot at 1100 Fleet Street, formerly known as Cava Mezze. They intend to have a very varied menu, from jumbo lump crab cakes to bronzini to Korean barbecue, brunch, lunch, and dinner. And Mr. Simon and Miss McCrae do not have significant prior restaurant and alcohol management experience, but they have been very successful leading their company with a couple of hundred employees, and they have a very good management style. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Simon to just give you a quick background. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fogelman. Just to clarify, myself, I do not have significant experience outside of the fact that my dad used to own a soul food restaurant years back. Ms. McCrae does have firsthand and secondhand experience from working in a restaurant growing up in her earlier age, and her husband also being working significantly in restaurants via Glory Days. So we have collectively some level of restaurant experience. But the thing that I think that is awesome about us is that we, like as Mr. Fogelman said, we employ over 300 individuals through multiple companies that we own. And so the best thing about us is that we understand that we don't have to be the brains of every part of the operation. We just need to hire well and develop and sustain a management system that will produce sustainable outcomes. For us, doing this business in Harbor East was important because in traveling the world, we get to experience other restaurants and social scenes, and kind of see that there was a void missing in Harbor East. A void that is a place that welcomes everyone, regardless of race, but does it with quality and sophistication, and where atmosphere and decor and service is taken in great consideration and is as valuable as the food, but the food is also going to be delivered at great high culinary execution. Um, so we've had several experiences of customer experience, and we've done that with some of the top organizations and celebrities across the country, from the Recording Academy, which are the Grammys, partnerships with the Baltimore Ravens, mental health conferences with Taraji P. Henson, events with Charlamagne the God, and several other celebrity figures. So I would say that's our background, and we've been able to run successful businesses. Um, and one thing I will just conclude with saying, you guys can feel trustworthy in us that we're going to uphold the standards of the liquor board. We're scheduled for our alcohol and food management class, with Alpha Food training with Jimmy Philippis, if I pronounced that correctly. But in addition to that, we understand the importance of doing things and adhering by the rules. And this may sound unfortunate why we feel this way, but just because, we're African Americans, we feel that we have to be beyond reproach. And that's how we operate all of our businesses. We don't like to take shortcuts. We don't like to do things that are in the gray area. We like to keep it very black and white and on the upside, because we do know from previous experiences of seeing others that certain favors that may be granted towards others may not be granted towards us. And we don't ever want to put ourselves in a position where that has to be negotiable or defended.
All right, and thank you, Mr. Simon. You and Ms. McCray are currently going to serve as general manager, right?
Yes, and then we'll be responsible for hiring all the additional staff and the general manager that will transfer after us.
And you're going to implement an alcohol policy regarding carding those who appear to be under a certain age and refusing service to those who appear to be intoxicated. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Simon.
Thank you.
I'll submit, Your Honor.
I understand plans, and I think it's probably implicit in what Mr. Simon said, but when they do hire a manager and other staff, they will all need to be familiar with our rules and regulations and certified. Understood?
Yes, sir. Agreed. That was definitely our plan.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners have any questions?
I have none.
No questions.
Do we have anyone else to testify, Ms. Kearns?
If there are any members of the public who wish to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand function at this time. Mr. Chair, I do not see any members of the public who wish to provide testimony.
Okay, thank you. So on the basis then of the materials contained in the application, proffers from Mr. Fogelman and testimony from Mr. Simon, I would vote to approve the application to transfer ownership of this Class B license with outdoor table service.
Thank you.
Commissioner Guy, upon the review of the evidence and the testimony presented before the board this morning, I also would vote to approve the application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service.
Thank you.
Based upon the application and the proffers from Mr. Fogelman and the testimony from Mr. Simon, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with continuation of outdoor table service.
Thank you.
No exhibit for the record.
Mr. Fogelman, via U.S. mail or electronically, we will send you a preliminary approval letter, which will outline the next steps before we physically transfer the license to your clients. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Thank you all.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Joe 9 Thai, 2933 O'Donnell Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service. Mr. Chair.
Is this Mr. Fogelman's also?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you want to identify yourself one last time?
Thank you. Almost good afternoon. So Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of the applicant, Kitty Sack Pimput.
Okay, is the applicant going to testify?
No, I will proffer if that's okay.
Fine, go ahead.
All right, I'll be brief. 2933 O'Donnell Street, former Shiso Tavern, going back in time, former Cosmopolitans, a part of the square. And Mr. Pimput has decided to put a Thai restaurant in the square. That takes care of uniqueness of services and products offered. He's the only Thai restaurant on O'Donnell Square in Canton. Mr. Pimput comes with excellent managerial skills, having owned the establishment known as Kun 9 Thai on North Charles Street for several years. As part of the evidence packet, I've introduced a Baltimore Sun review of the establishment. There was no liquor license at that establishment. To compete in Canton, it's a little more of a requirement to have a liquor license. The sales of alcohol, Mr. Pimput tells me, he expects no more than 15%. It's an accessory for his clients and not a focus of the establishment. He's an excellent restaurant owner and chef, and he wants to put out great Thai food in O'Donnell Square. I've also enclosed a menu or items from the North Charles Street location to give you an idea of the kind of fare that he's already serving and plans to serve in Canton. And Mr. Pimput indeed will be the general manager and hands-on owner. He will ensure that his staff is familiar with the rules and regulations of the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. He also has an appointment to be alcohol management certified himself tomorrow.
Anything further?
No, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The commissioners?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Ms. Kearns, we have public commentary.
If members of the public who wish to provide testimony, Mr. I do not see any members of the public who wish to provide testimony.
Thank you. All right, on the basis then of the materials contained in the application as well as the extensive proffer from Mr. Fogelman, I would vote to approve the application to transfer this Class B license with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service.
Thank you.
Commissioner Guy, upon the review of the evidence and the testimony presented before the board this morning, I also would vote to approve the application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table services.
Based upon the application, the proffers from Mr. Fogelman, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service. Good luck.
No exhibits for the record.
Good luck.
Mr. Fogelman, you will receive via U.S. mail or electronically preliminary approval letter, which will outline the next steps before we physically transfer the license to your clients.
Thank you, Mr. Page, and thank you all very much. It's so good to see you all again.
You're welcome. Happy New Year. So, Mr. Page, is that our docket for today?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. There being no other business or matters before this board, we will be in recess until Thursday, January the 28th, 2021. We are adjourned.
We're off the record at 12:02.